Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala barakatuh. Alhamdulillah rabbil alamin. Wassalatu wassalamu ala asyrafil anbiya wal mursalin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Alhamdulillah, we are discussing this important idea of how we can implement positive Islamic psychology or Islamic psychology in the 21st century, and how we can understand the nature of our existence. That means from the perspective of what Allah has created us, as I've mentioned earlier in the earlier videos, in the primordial nature of ourselves, in the realm of Azali, we have the spiritual existence. This is very clear in the Quran and in the various hadith, which is explained in detail, this realm of the primordial world before we exist in the physical world. So this is pre-birth, then we have life on this earth where we have the four realms of existence: the spiritual, emotional, mental and physical. And then when we die, we are going back to the three realm of living beyond space, beyond time, beyond quantum existence. That is, we have our spiritual, emotional and mental self, and the imprint of our journey in this life then affects our nature of existence in the spiritual world in the hereafter. So that is a basis of Islamic psychology, because without that then it would be secular atheistic psychology. And I've explained to you in detail the model of Islamic psychology, which we have explained to you in our book Positive Islamic Psychology, this whole chapter on the model. Alright, I hope you buy this book or download online, inshallah, and then you learn about this whole nature of the model, because Islamic psychology model is different from the model of secular atheistic psychology, because we take the input from not only our physical environment, which is more of the physical realm, but we also take from the social, intra and intra within ourselves, and inter-social environment, and then we take about the nature of inner speech, understanding the automatic thoughts that Aaron Beck said he discovered. But this is in the Quran, this is in the Hadith, has been explained in great detail by Muslim scholars of the past, and this is very important for us to bring back to humanity in the 21st century, that this nature of the human self is just not only physical but spiritual, emotional, mental and physical, and that our total past learning history of our perception of living in this world that affects our total past learning history is impacted by the spiritual, emotional and physical self, and we must develop the feelings, emotion and thoughts of love. This is very important. We must bring this back into the 21st century, especially for the Muslim Ummah, because we have moved away from a religion of love to a religion that is based on forms, which is not complete. So we have to complete this journey and make sure that our feelings, emotion and thoughts in our spiritual, emotional and mental self is based on this profound idea of love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and our love for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and His beloved Sayyidina Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and all the great scholars and the community of believers who are all loving each other. Okay, so this is our model. You can go into detail in your studies, and then I explain to you what are the 12 ways in which we can self-destroy ourselves, and certain of these ideas of our own demise as a global civilization is something that is done by our own hand. That means we are causing this very destruction on this earth, this beautiful earth, because of greed. So we have this extreme weather climate. It is now proven by scientists, it is because we human beings do it. Nuclear war, we use that knowledge to create nuclear bombs. Global pandemic, all right, ecological collapse, global system collapse, major asteroid impact, we have no say in it, but this is the work of Allah. Super volcano is also determined by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Synthetic biology, nanotechnology, artificial intelligence and bad global governance, all these unknown consequences will lead us towards our own demise in the 21st or 22nd century. It's not far away, another 100, 200 years. And why is it so? I just want to give you an idea, because we have to just reflect. I want you to think after this video, reflect upon yourself. Are we heading towards global civilizational destruction, or are we creating a new civilization of peace, mercy, hope, love, caring, sharing and so on? Are we or are we not? And if your understanding it is we are not, then we have to find a way out of this mess that we have created within the last 200 years of massive consumption, greed, oppression, and leading a lifestyle that is secular, atheistic, thinking that we only a physical being living in a physical world, dying in a physical world, with no qualms about what we are doing. So, secular atheistic psychology results in a hedonistic worldview. This is our premise. That means if we say that we continue with this, all this psychology, whether it's positive psychology or whether humanistic psychology or whether it is all the kind of therapeutic ideas, even cognitive behavior therapy, which is so well renowned, and drug-based therapy and so on, whatever that we try to change, whether it is neurotransmitter or transmitters or the hormonal system or the brain system, and using all the technology, the very foundation of the sociology and psychology of our existence is what? If it is based on secular atheistic psychology, what will be the outcome? And we can see the outcome. Hedonistic lifestyle, and we can see that now 6 of the most profitable business now, what are they? This gambling. So gambling becomes a way of life which is oppressive and destructive. We have drugs, the drug industry, both the legal drug industry is also oppressing, the illegal drug industry is even worse, selling all kind of things from cocaine to heroin to meth to ecstasy to you name it, and it is impacting the life of hundreds of millions of people, all right, destroying them and not giving them the full spectrum of beautiful life. So this is this industry that is now prevalent, sex industry. We are selling sex. Everything show the nakedness of women and now the nakedness of men, and everything is showing in terms of extreme pornography, extreme virtual sex toys, and so many of these things that is selling this idea that we can get satisfaction just by having sex, just like monkeys or donkeys or cats. So this is the industry that is generating billions and billions of dollars. Then we have this banking industry based on riba, based on interest, which is so oppressive. The rich are getting richer, the poor are getting poorer, and this is not sustainable. 1% of humanity now is controlling more than 80% of the wealth of this world. This is unsustainable. It is nonsensical. And how are they financing? They are financing the destruction of this earth. They are financing huge, for example, mega farms in the Amazon, destroying all the fauna and flora of the Amazon to plant what? To plant soya beans. And what are the soya beans for? To feed the cows. And what are these cows for? To become McDonald's hamburgers. This whole cycle of destroying the rainforest will finally cause the Amazon to become desert. And they don't care. In 20 years' time where there's no rainfall, now it's already the rainfall in the Amazon desert has drastically dropped. And what will happen? The whole Amazon Valley will become a new Sahara. Who? Why? Because the banking industry is supporting all this evil scheme of massive land clearing, not only in the Amazon, in Asia, in Southeast Asia, everywhere in the world, that we are actually destroying the good earth. Then we have, the next one is the entertainment industry. They're putting all kind of melodrama, all kind of video games, all kind of escapism. And then we have the war industry. The war in Iraq costing $3 trillion could easily have financed the whole rehabilitation of the Amazon Valley. So our lungs, Amazon Valley is the lung of this world. It gives you all the oxygen that we get. We could easily have saved Amazon Valley for the next 100 years. But we spend $3 trillion just to kill each other and create a war that is unnecessary. And this war machine is now selling sophisticated drones, sophisticated laser beams, energy, destructive machine, and so on. So this whole idea of this hedonistic lifestyle, a secular psychology based on secularism, atheism, is doomed. And we must know it is going to affect us. We Muslims cannot escape because the so-called Western bracket civilized world is so uncivilized. They are doing all these things. So escapism, anxiety, depression is now prevalent mode of living in the West. So it is affecting we Muslims too, because we are affected whether we like it or not. So the result would be a global destruction maybe in 200 years. 100 to 200 is not far away. Okay? Because based on all this evil that we are seeing, we are destroying this planet Earth, we are destroying our spirituality as a human being, mirrored in the image of God. So how are we going to do it? We have to bring Islamic psychology in a holistic contemplative worldview. This holistic contemplative worldview can be brought about in a modern society, because with artificial intelligence and robotics, in the future there will be very little work. So what kind of work we're going to do? If we don't have much work, then we'll go into all these things. Gambling, drugs, sex industry, entertainment, and whatever that is this. But for Muslims, we can bring all Muslims together, the 1.7 Muslims. Let's create a new model of a contemplative spiritual society based on love, mercy, compassion, and bring the practice of Islam, the forms of Islam, towards the highest level of acknowledgement of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and to develop a peaceful, loving, caring civilization. So we have a balanced lifestyle both on our spiritual, emotional, mental, and physical nourishment. We nourish all our 4 areas of existence, or 4 realms of existence. And then spirituality is the foremost in our development as a human being that is related to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and we result in a new heaven on earth based on Islamic psychology. And that is possible. So there are many Muslim brothers and sisters have been working on this. One of these is my friend, John Halihi, Yahya Ahmad. He is a Muslim convert, and he has been working with me in 1990 when he was in Malaysia, when he was a lecturer in UKM. So his 2 books, you should read these 2 books. That is The Search for Truth and Keys and Veil. All right? It's possibility of contemporary spirituality in the light of traditional Islamic wisdom. So this 2 books is very important if you want to create Islamic psychology and study deeply, because I'm just going to read a few of his writings, a few paragraphs, for you to understand the depth of the research of our brother John Halihi, our Yahya Ahmad. People of this contemporary time must recognize the truth that is available to them, and they must respond to the truth with intelligence and desire. God projects the knowledge of himself into the heart of man through revelation, and thus through religion. But man meets God and comes into his presence, divine presence, through the intelligence and sensibility of his heart. The veil of mystery of existential challenge that every person must face in his or her life, the spiritual key to the world of the unseen reality, offer people the possibility of lifting the veil of mystery in order to enter alternative realm of consciousness and spiritual experience. It is not enough for man to acknowledge the existence of the veil. He must be able to lift this veil with the spiritual keys that draw their blessings and their validity from the revelation of a particular religion, that is Islam, where in the Quran Allah says, with him are the keys of the unseen, treasures that none know but he. 6:59, Surah 6 verse 59. Alright, so our brother also says, contemporary man may no longer need a God with an anthropomorphic face, nor does he need a human persona of a divine that is projected as a convenience into the world. On the contrary, man needs a divinity that is absolute, living and real. The need for a personalized God has given way to the need for a truly personal experience of God during these contemporary times. The idea of God must be conceived in the mind as a truth. It must also be felt in the heart as a sacred divine presence. Man's intelligence conceives of the absolute being as a vital living reality, and the human must prove its validity through the spiritual life of man. Ultimately, the divine mystery must be internalized within the heart and the soul of man as a sacred possibility leading towards the kernel of truth, the overwhelming truth that needs to be experienced in order to be known. Wallahu alam. So this is our brother John Halihi. His journey from non-belief to Islam, and actively promote this whole idea of contemporary spirituality, that if we are going to develop Islamic psychology, we are able to do that, and inshallah help save the ummah and help save the 21st century, inshallah.